Now let's move to the courts. The Supreme Court has restored the final forfeiture of 7 high-value properties linked to former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, overturning an earlier judgment of the Court of Appeal, which had ordered a retrial of the case. A 5-member panel of the Apex Court, led by Justice Ibrahim Saulawa, unanimously allowed the appeal and set aside the decision of the Court of Appeal, Lagos Division, which had nullified the forfeiture order made by the Federal High Court in Lagos. The Apex Court's decision effectively restores the final forfeiture of the assets, bringing to an end the legal challenge mounted by Mr. Emefiele against the Federal High Court's order. Also, the case has now run for 2 years, from an interim order in August of 2024 to this week's Supreme Court finality, and that's even as 2 separate criminal trials continue involving Godwin Emefiele. Let's look at the judicial pendulum. Here is where it started. On the 15th of August 2024, Vacation Justice Akintayo Aluko granted the EFCC's ex parte interim forfeiture, that's calling for a freeze. And just about 3 months later, on the 1st of November 2024, the final order came from Justice Dende Dikpeolu of the Federal High Court, which made it final, and he cited a lack of proof of legitimate acquisition. The following year, on the 9th of April 2025, a split Court of Appeal with 2-1 with Justice Abdulaziz Anka in the majority actually set the property forfeiture aside and ordered a retrial while upholding the $2 million cash forfeiture. Now, on the 17th of July, that is today, the Apex Court did strike, unanimously reversing that reversal of the Court of Appeal, and now restored that Federal High Court's original decision in full. Let's look at the next slide. Now, let's talk about the forfeited asset. We have in Ikoyi, that's in Lagos. The assets include undeveloped land measuring about 1,919.59 square meters, and a bungalow at 65A Onyekon Abayomi Drive. We have a 4-bedroom duplex at 12A Probin Road. We have an 8-apartment unit at Adekunle Lawal Road, a duplex at 2A Bank Road. And then in Lekki, you had 2 fully detached duplexes at 17B Hakim Odumosu Street. You might be familiar with some of these properties if you have moved around them. And in Delta State, that is state of origin. In Agbo, you have an industrial complex which is under construction, and this complex actually spans 22 plots. Now, Godwin Emefiele equally have some liquid assets, $2.045 million in uncontested cash and share certificates in Queensdorf Global Fund Limited Trust. And now, here is a corporate veil. Some institutions that exist that are veiling the ownership of these structures. Talked about the SDEM Erectors Nigeria Limited. There are 6 companies standing between Emefiele and these assets. That's SDM. You also look at Amrush Ventures Limited. You look at H&Y Business Global Limited. You look at Modern Hotels Limited. You look at Fidelity Express Services Limited. Then Fanbury Properties Limited. Now, none of these corporate entities was able to successfully prove legitimate acquisition of the property being held in their names. And so the Supreme Court made its decision today. Now, earnings versus alleged illicit wealth. While Godwin Emefiele was governor of the central bank, before he even became central bank governor, what can we say he actually earned? Now, comparing that to what eventually he was found with, the defense pointed to documented remuneration, an annual Central Bank of Nigeria salary of about 350 million naira. You have a 300 million naira a year in quarterly reimbursements, and over $6.285 million in ESTA codes, and a combined 2.25 billion naira combined severance and severance package from Zenith Bank, where he worked before he became the CBN governor. Now, looking at the argument, it was that legitimate earnings plausibly covered the asset acquisitions. But the prosecution pointed the other way, citing proxy accounts and corporate veils, sustained ruling is one case. In Lagos actually alleges $4.5 billion naira in abuse of office, which has been adjourned to October or November. Now, the Naira redesign trial in Abuja is another one, and that's been adjourned to October this year. Now, there is a separate 753-unit Abuja housing estate forfeiture, which remains under appeal. So these ones are still pending. So 2 pending trials and a separate housing estate forfeiture all remain open and affected by this week's decision of the Supreme Court. Today's forfeiture is signed, sealed, and delivered. But for Godwin Emefiele, the courtroom chapter is far from closed. Now, let's speak with a lawyer on this. Justice Ugeno joins me live. Mr. Ugeno, the Supreme Court has now hit the nail on the final forfeiture of these 7 high-value properties. What is the significance of this to the Proceeds of Crime Recovery and the Management Act 2022?
Okay, for me, I think that the significance is that more imprimatur has been given to that law. And first, I must not forget to commend you and commend your team for the excellent analysis that has been done to decipher and break the provision and everything that transpired in court down. I also saw what you did with Malami. It is extremely commendable. So I must commend you for that first. I'm extremely personally impressed. So with respect to the law that was used to eventually convict Mr. Emefiele, it's unfortunate that the final hammer has come. It is the Supreme Court that has spoken this time, and of course, if there is anybody that wants to appeal has to practically go to God, because again, there has been an attempt to try to maybe retort the decisions of the Supreme Court in no distant time, and we have seen that the Supreme Court has come down heavy on those people. I feel significantly for Mr. Emefiele, because one of his arguments is that, of course, he worked for this money, and unfortunately, he used corporate deals to actually route the money, and the law has taken its course, and it's very, very unfortunate that it came to this. If indeed his legitimate earnings were involved in this, it means that he probably would die a poor man if the EFCC still does a good job and they're able to unearth every dime, whether in Naira or in any other foreign currency that he has hidden anywhere, both onshore and offshore of Nigeria. So if that is done, he probably will die a pauper with the way the corruption laws are practically going after him. And it's unfortunate if he had legitimate earnings, it is already lost among the criminal monies, and it's not something you'll be able to follow back.
I hear you saying you feel sorry for him because really he even has 2 pending trials and a separate housing forfeiture case in court. How might this particular forfeiture order affect or impact the pending cases?
Okay, I want to believe that as much as possible, the judges will be immune to whatever news that has actually come out, and the judges will ensure that their minds are not biased or tainted by this judgment of the Supreme Court, because every judge is supposed to decide matters based on facts and evidence that are placed before them. And as much as possible, too, as a legal practitioner, I have serious responsibility towards the court not to talk about where the pendulum will swing with respect to the other matters. But I don't really feel I can't gamble on him coming up.
That's understandable. That's understandable, Mr. Ugeno. It's in court and would allow the court to actually take its course, the law to take its course. Justice Ugeno is a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for these insights you've shared with us on TVC News at 10.
My pleasure.
When TVC